As you are reality shifting, at certain points you might get little breadcrumbs. Quantum breadcrumbs is what I call them. Little glimpses or flashes or intuitive knowings that you have a homestead somewhere else. And part of the beautiful experience of being human is that we have emotional experiences that become tethered and tied to intellectual constructs, such that a vision that we have, even hallucinations, if you're into psychedelics, can elicit profound, deep, and meaningful emotional responses. And so, as a result, when you are starting to query other lifelines, or when your consciousness is expanding beyond this singular point of awareness and memory of being in this life, you will have snippets of parallel lives in the way of glimpses of other houses, castles, mansions, high-rise, high-tech apartments. I have one that I'm really, really attached to. This is why I get very excited about quantum traveling, because I can't find any, well, I presume that I can't. It doesn't exist yet. It's a high-rise that has all glass, floor to ceiling windows, with fancy technology embedded in the apartment and implant technology that is sort of like out of a sci-fi thriller, that you can get the news through this little capsule that you place at the base of your skull externally, and it downloads all of the latest news that you need, as well as your social media content, through holographic displays that you see out of your eyes. So you take this little capsule, and it loads everything that you need. And while I'm walking in with a stack of antiquated mail, because I haven't checked my mail in forever, this is so me. That's a great congruency. That's how I know it's me, because there's like, the mailbox is overflowing. But apparently there's still mail there. And as I'm walking in to this hallway, I pass this tube-like glass structure that I can stand in and change my appearance. And I have a furry rug, kind of like a shag rug, in the living room area that is white. And that's also me, to have like soft textures. But I, the person that I know myself, am barely recognizable. In fact, I look very different. The world is very different. And it really is out of like a cyberpunk thriller that starts to feel more and more tangible. And I know about the 15-minute cities and things like that. I don't know if it's anything like that. What I do know is that it doesn't feel oppressive. I feel relaxed there. I feel engaged. I don't feel apathetic or bored. I don't feel victimized. I'm like excited about a cyberpunk bar that I'm going to go to, and we're all going to dress up. And there's these masks that we're going to wear, but they're not masks that are external. We actually put ourselves in this tube and change the design on our skin, kind of like tattoos, but they're temporary, but not like the peel on or stick on with water. It's, we do something with the technology of our bodies. And then sometimes I have little glimpses of this vampire story in the past. So the high-tech, high-rise apartment is a future timeline. And the past timeline is very dark. There's like torches on the wall. There's these paintings and this long red carpet, and it feels damp, and the linens that are hanging from the floor to the ceiling, the place is cavernous, is huge, and it has a weight to it that I find pleasant. Actually, it's shadowy, it's dense, it is old world, and it is playful and has a lot of red velvet and feels as though there are things and forbidden loves that would never fly in the construct of society that we have today. So it feels like it has to be kind of like a secret, and it feels like it's in a place like Transylvania, and the vibration there is very distinct, but it also feels secret society-ish. But I'm not the one that is in charge. I'm almost like a student, and there are these Nostradamus type creatures that give us instructions, and I don't always like them, and I don't always agree with them, and we don't always get along. That's not one that I'm trying to go to, but there have been other glimpses along the way, ordinary lives of a family, or vision of somebody at a breakfast table with 2 kids, and I'm like walking up and they know me, but I don't know them because my consciousness is inserted into that moment, and the life there is unrecognizable. It's almost as though I'm looking at a stranger, but I'm doing so from the first person, pseudo second, third person perspective. I'm close enough to sort of have my vision integrated with the woman's vision, who is me, but she's so different that she doesn't resonate with me, and everything there is unfamiliar, except there's happiness and joy and Ten of Cups energy, if you're familiar with that. So when you start opening up to other worlds and other timelines, you too, if you haven't already, will start to have little pictures of what already exists in the ether. And there are some that start from scratch and brute force manifest. There's nothing wrong with that. I do that too. But there's also a delicate dance with receiving information, quantum breadcrumbs. Quantum because it supersedes our notion of linear time and extends beyond our space-time arrangement that we are familiar with. And breadcrumbs because it's like little snippets of deja vu, but deja vu is usually in the past. I have an episode about this called Quantum Breadcrumbs. And so you receive little bits of information, but to receive it, you have to be in a receptive state, which means that you have to be ready. And it's almost like your antenna is up. I've received information like this in meditation. So meditation is a great way to receive it, but I've also received information just by downloads, claircognizance. And when you are in a brute force manifestation, I want this and I want it to look like that, and then I'm gonna go here. Like somebody asked me about what I thought about a group of reality shifters in our present day reality, manifesting going to like Marvel worlds or Hogwarts and fantastically magical places. And they asked my opinion on this matter, and I haven't answered yet. I was waiting for the right moment. Now seems like a good moment. I also have some bizarrely wild fantastical creations out there. And in my experience, it's a process to step into those in your waking form, in your waking reality. So for example, Sedona is a very special place for me, as well as Death Valley, where I have some amazing magical creations and co-creations with nature. And one time when I was quantum traveling in Sedona, so not just micro shifts, but like really, really jumping around, I looked at this underpass in the distance, which transformed in front of my eyes into this cave-like appearance. It's so hard to describe. It is like looking at a rock salt lamp, the orange ones, and seeing a cave open up in the middle of it. But it's normal reality, and then all of a sudden it transforms like do 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 do. And then when I started to approach it, because I felt this feeling of home, I felt this feeling of connection. Not that I live in a cave, but that's just what it appeared. It was like this tunnel. Instead of an overpass of a highway in the distance, it turned into this portal tunnel that was very warm, very orange, and was very welcoming. And as I tried to approach it, I could not hold my vision to that, because my dominant perception of reality was that it was ordinary. And similarly, when I have seen miracles in Death Valley manifesting with nature, I mean, just like miracles, like a Stonehenge type of arrangement that was starting to develop, and I was working with different constructs of the material world. I created the appropriate structure and framework for which to create a new earth, and I did so with the vibration and frequency of the nature energy, who I called Harold. I don't know why. It was kind of random, but Harold and I created this plane of existence together, and there was this rock formation that was starting to form, as well as a Joshua tree, and I saw these gems, rocks with gemstones starting to pop out of the ground like popcorn. The ground was really hot. It reminded me of a supernova. And this is when there was nobody around. I felt like I was the only one in the essence of nature. And I created the middle world, the upper world, and the lower world, and started to see that come into fruition. And at some point, I needed to refuel and expand with nature. So I was driving and we were continuing, and it was amazing because the landscape was repopulating with me as I was driving. And at first there was nothing where there were supposed to be things, and I popped out and I made it to a gas station that was this portal area in of itself, to where, depending on where I was traveling to and from, it would be different gas stations. So in one version, it had high-tech Tesla charging stations attached to it, and I had never seen so many of them out in the middle of nowhere. And then another version of it, it was old-timey and had no electric charging stations. And I walked in and I bought the things that I needed for my body to maintain that energy, which is actually what Harold needed. So we had to synchronize our vibrational field, and that required me to eat and drink certain things that I wouldn't normally, to maintain that vibration. And I could just intuitively feel that. And I was trying to make my way back to that portal area that we were manifesting together, and I couldn't find it. It was like gone. It was gone. The act of going and buying things and being immersed in the everyday reality, I don't know if that's what it was exactly, but I do know that it has a very powerful grounding effect. And so I went from this place of feeling as though I was in creatrix mode to feeling like I was in my ordinary, hey, how's it going? How was your day? Oh, it's good. Thank you. And when you start operating with those behavior paradigms, something happens, like it shifts you. And it's really hard to be in a creator's portal and interact in the everyday world. It just is. It really is. That's why I really think that we could do it differently. We absolutely could. And there can be creator retreats where if you're in that mode, let us bring you food and just like deliver it to your doorstep. You don't have to engage with anybody, and it just shows up. You don't have to worry about time, and it's quality food. Sorry. It's like, this is what I wanted at that time because it's so disruptive. It really is. Anyway, so this is my answer to getting into some of those alternative realities. And the more alternative that it is, the more out there that it is, meaning the more there is a disparity between the waking real world and that fantastical world, the harder it is to do both. And the harder it is to be in your normal human form, because there is a very strong bootstrapping effect that wants to keep you in everything that you've always known, because it's safe, it's predictable. Like if you had to learn how a chair worked every single time, you wouldn't make it very far as a human being. And if you start entering into a world where there's people with telekinesis and true story, like people where there's different physics, then it's very disorienting and your body and your brain do not like it. So there needs to be a habituation period. Similarly, if you are trying to link in to one of your homesteads that are existing out in the ether, if that homestead is something that already exists, like if it's a mansion, Beverly Hills, like I had this attachment to this fictitious house. I looked it up and it was like a quantum style house. I thought it was a Gene Wilder house, but when I looked at the Gene Wilder house, I was like, no, that is not it. This is not it at all. It had like portals and things in there and secret passages. So you could actually traverse different worlds and live in this quantum arrangement. And I've also thought of Airbnbs for quantum travelers too. And in some places there are quantum hostels and hotels, and they don't have clocks, and their energetic vibrations are conducive to you being a reality shifter. But these web pages don't exist in every reality layer. Isn't that fucking cool? Like, sometimes the web pages don't exist, especially if you're in a binary construct of a society. So it's fun. It's so fun when you get to explore this, right? And I loved it. And I want everybody to be able to have the experience, but I don't know if everybody can. And this is something that I'm grappling with. So as much as I want to be able to say it's a technique that works for everybody, I'm just not sure. And so if your homestead exists in this material plane of existence, then it's a lot easier for you. You can use regular manifestation principles and visualization principles and action plans to close that gap. And you can realize it very, very easily. But when your homestead that you have a strong attachment to is far out in the ether, and you're trapped in this ordinary existence and it's a fantastical world, that requires much more patience. That requires much more advanced meditation techniques and quantum traveling techniques. And my best advice, if you're one of those people, is to work on adapting your perceptual and sensory systems to allow for more ambiguity. So frame everything as though you might be reality shifting. Like I heard from somebody, one of my contacts today on TikTok, who said, "I'm so sorry I didn't send that GIF. I don't know what happened. This is like such a silly image." And their explanation for that, I don't know what it was, but I used that moment as an opportunity to provide a reality shifting explanation, to invite them to co-create with me and to demonstrate the mindset. It's every opportunity. If you lose something and it shows up, laugh it off and say, "I must be reality shifting, must be slipping through the dimensions. Oh, I got to feed the fairies in the other dimension. You know, like hopefully they don't eat my toes." There was one of those and I was like, this is unacceptable. We cannot have little creatures eating our toes if we're traveling in different dimensions. So look for opportunities to explain things as reality shifting, and you'll start to see the magic unfold.